Do you know how to change a diaper? Asked Esperanza when they got back to the cabin. Certainly, said Isabel. I will change them and you will rinse out the diapers. We need to do some laundry too. Esperanza watched as the young girl laid the babies down one at a time, unpinned their diapers, wiped their bottoms clean, and pinned on fresh diapers. Isabel handed Esperanza the smelly bundles and said, "Take them to the toilets and dump them, and I'll fill the wash tub." Esperanza held them at arm's length and almost ran to the toilets. Several more onion trucks passed by, their smell accosting her eyes and nose as much as the diapers. By the time she got back, Isabel had already filled two wash tubs with water from an outside pipe and was swirling soap around in one of them. A washboard was propped inside. Esperanza went to the washtub and hesitated, staring into the water. Bits of onion skins floated on the surface of the soapy water. She held a corner of one of the diapers, lightly dipping it in and out of the water, her hand never getting wet. After a few seconds, she gingerly lifted the diaper from the water. "Now what?" she said. "Esperanza, you must scrub them like this." Isabel walked over, took the diapers, and plunged them into the water up to her elbows. The water quickly became murky. She rubbed the diapers with soap, vigorously scrubbed them back and forth on the washboard, and wrung them out. Then she transferred them to the next tub, rinsing and wringing them. Isabel shook out the clean diapers and hung them on the line stretched between the chinaberry and mulberry trees. Then she started on the clothes. Esperanza was amazed. She had never washed anything in her life, and Isabel, who was only 8 years old, made it look so easy. Puzzled, Isabel looked at Esperanza. "Don't you know how to wash clothes?" "Well," Hortensia took everything out to the laundry quarters, and the servants, they always. She looked at Isabel and shook her head no. Isabel's eyes got bigger, and she looked worried. "Esperanza, when I go to school next week, you will be here alone with the babies and will have to do the laundry." Esperanza took a deep breath and said weakly, "I can learn. And later today, you must sweep the platform. You do know how to sweep." "Of course," said Esperanza. She had seen people sweep many times. Many times, she assured herself. Besides, she was already too embarrassed about the washing to admit anything else to Isabel. Isabel sat with the babies while Esperanza went to sweep the platform. The camp was quiet, and even though it was late in the day, the sun was unrelenting. She retrieved the broom and stepped onto the wooden floor. Dried and brittle onion skins were everywhere. In her entire life, Esperanza had never held a broom in her hand. But she had seen Hortensia sweep, and she tried to visualize the memory. It couldn't possibly be that hard. She put both hands near the middle of the broomstick and moved it back and forth. It swung wildly. The motion seemed awkward, and the fine dirt on the wooden planks lifted into a cloud. Onion jackets flew into the air instead of gathering together in a neat pile like Hortensia's. Esperanza's elbows did not know what to do, neither did her arms. She felt streams of perspiration sliding down her neck. She stopped for a moment and stared at the broom as if willing it to behave. Determined, she tried again. She hadn't noticed that several trucks were already unloading workers nearby. Then she heard it. First a small tittering, and then louder. She turned around. A group of women were laughing at her, and in the middle of the group was Marta, pointing. "La Cienta, Cinderella," she laughed, burning with humiliation. Esperanza dropped the broom and ran back to the cabin. In her room, she sat on the edge of the cot, her face flushed again at the thought of the ridicule. She was still sitting there, staring at the wall, when Isabel found her. "I said I could work. I told Mama I could help, but I cannot even wash clothes or sweep a floor. Does the whole camp know?" Isabel sat down on the bed next to her and patted her back. "Yes." Esperanza groaned. Oh, I'll never be able to show my face. She put her head in her hands until she heard someone else come into the room. Esperanza looked up to see Miguel holding a broom and a dustpan, but he wasn't laughing. She looked down and bit her lip so she wouldn't cry in front of him. He shut the door, then stood in front of her and said, "How would you know how to sweep a floor? The only thing that you ever learned was how to give orders. That is not your fault, Anza. Look at me." She looked up. "Pay attention," he said, his face serious. "You hold the broom like this, one hand here and the other hand here." Esperanza watched. "Then you push like this, or pull it toward you like this. Here, you try," he said, holding out the broom. Slowly, Esperanza got up and took the broom from him. He positioned her hands on the handle. She tried to copy him, but her movements were too big. "Small strokes," said Miguel, coaching, "and sweep all in one direction." She did as he said. "Now, when you get all the dirt into a pile, you hold the broom down here near the bottom and push the dirt into the pan." Esperanza collected the dirt. "See, you could do it." Miguel raised his thick eyebrows and smiled. "Someday, you just might make a very good servant." Isabel giggled. Esperanza could not yet find the humor in the situation. Somberly, she said, "Thank you, Miguel." He grinned and bowed. "At your service, mi reina." But this time, his voice was kind. She remembered that he had gone to look for work at the railroad. "Did you get a job?" His smile faded. He put his hands in his pockets and shrugged his shoulders. "It is frustrating. I could fix any engine, but they will only hire Mexicans to lay track and dig ditches, not as mechanics. I've decided to work in the fields until I can convince someone to give me a chance." Esperanza nodded. After he left the room, Isabel said, "He calls you my reina. Will you tell me about your life as a queen?" Esperanza sat on the mattress and patted the spot next to her. Isabel sat down. "Isabel, I will tell you all about how I used to live, about parties and private school and beautiful dresses. I will even show you the beautiful doll my papa bought me, if you will teach me how to pin diapers, how to wash, and," Isabel interrupted her, "but that is so easy." Esperanza stood up and carefully practiced with the broom. "It is not easy for me." "I My neck hurts," said Mamma as she massaged the back of her head with her hand. "It's not my neck, it's my arms that are sore," said Hortensia. "It's the same for everyone," said Josefina. "When you first start in the sheds, your body refuses to bend, but in time, you will get used to the work." Everyone had come home that night tired, with various aches and pains. They gathered in one cabin for dinner, so it was crowded and noisy. Josefina warmed a pot of beans, and Hortensia made fresh tortillas. Juan and Alfonso talked about the fields, while Miguel and Isabel played with the babies, making them squeal with laughter. Mama cooked arroz, and Esperanza was surprised that Mama knew just how to brown it first in oil with onions and peppers. Esperanza chopped tomates for a salad and hoped no one would mention the sleeping. She was glad this day was over. Her bruises had been to her pride. Isabel took a fresh tortilla, sprinkled it with salt, rolled it up like a cigar, and waved it at Miguel. "How come you and Tio Alfonso won't let me go behind the cabin with you?" "Shh," he said. "It's a surprise." "Why are you so full of secrets?" asked Esperanza. But neither Alfonso nor Miguel answered. They simply smiled while they prepared their plates. They ate dinner, but before they could slice a cantaloupe for dessert, Alfonso and Miguel disappeared, with instructions not to follow them. "What are they doing?" demanded Isabel. Hortensia shrugged as if she knew nothing. Miguel came back just before sunset. "Senora and Esperanza, we have something to show you." Esperanza looked at Mama. It was obvious Mama was as confused as she was. They all followed Miguel to where Alfonso was waiting. Behind the cabin was an old oval washtub with one end cut off. It had been set on its side, forming a little shrine around a plastic statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Someone had built a grotto of rocks around the base of the tub. Around it, a large plot of earth had been fenced in by sticks and rope and planted with thorny stems, each with only a few branches. Isabel gasped, "It's beautiful. Is that our statue?" Josefina nodded. "But the roses come from far away." Esperanza searched Miguel's face, her eyes hopeful. "Papa's?" "Yes, these are your papa's roses," said Miguel, smiling at her. So that's what they were watering on their way up north. They had taken Papa's rose plants from the property.